Y'all bust my head down. Yeah, I've been in an accident. Yeah, y'all bust my head down.
On July 26, 2021, the Orangeburg Department of Public Safety dispatched officers to a townhouse parking lot in South Carolina. What followed was not a hostage situation. It was not a shootout. It was not even an arrest that anyone planned. It was a 58-year-old disabled man standing outside near a vehicle. And within 60 seconds of one officer's arrival, that man's forehead was bleeding on the pavement. That is not an allegation. That is what the body camera footage shows. Picture a scale. On one side, you place a disabled man with his hands raised above his head, attempting to lower himself to the ground on the orders of an officer pointing a gun at him. On the other side, you place a police boot, stomping down. That is the image this story leaves you with, and no amount of official paperwork filed afterward changed what that scale looked like. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you are subscribed to Police Misconduct Case, because we do not just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Every incident report, every body cam timestamp, every contradiction between what an officer says happened and what the footage proves happened. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Now, back to that parking lot. Clarence Gaylord was not a suspect in a violent crime. He was not fleeing. He was not armed. He was standing near a white vehicle when Officer David Lance Dukes of the Orangeburg Department of Public Safety arrived, immediately drew his firearm, and began screaming commands.
2021. Officer David Lance Dukes of the Orangeburg Department of Public Safety responded to a call regarding a man banging on a townhouse door, allegedly with a gun in his waistband. When he arrived on the scene, Officer Dukes immediately drew his gun and ordered 58-year-old disabled man Clarence Gaylord and his cousin Mario Julian, who were standing in the parking lot outside the townhouse, to the ground.
Hey, let me see your hands. Bert, get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground right here. Get on the ground. You, burgundy shirt, get on the ground. Over here. On the ground. On the ground. Get on the ground. Do you not listen? Get on the ground.
Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. The commands came fast, overlapping, leaving almost no room for a 58-year-old man with physical disabilities to process and execute them in the time Officer Dukes apparently expected. Mr. Gaylord did what most people would do when a gun is pointed at them. He raised both hands above his head. Empty hands, visible hands, hands that any trained officer could see held nothing. He then began lowering himself to his hands and knees in an attempt to comply. That is when Officer Dukes used his foot.
Ground!
Mr. Gaylord attempts to comply with Officer Dukes' orders by getting onto his hands and knees, but Officer Dukes forcefully uses his foot to attempt to force...
Depending on which official report you read, that foot landed either on the middle of Mr. Gaylord's back or on the back of his neck. Either way, the result was the same. Mr. Gaylord's forehead struck the pavement with enough force to break the skin. He was bleeding.
Head down on the cement. Yeah.
Go back inside. Go back in the house. Go back in the house. Ain't nobody talking to you.
I got head trauma.
Go back in the house.
Yeah. Y'all bust my head down. Yeah, I've been in an accident. Yeah, y'all bust my head down. You threw me down.
I sure did. You wasn't listening.
Yeah. No, it ain't. You ain't to throw me down like that. I'm disability.
Okay.
I got head problem. Yup, you threw me down.
He told every officer within earshot exactly what had happened. You busted my head down on the cement. You threw me down. I'm disabled. I got a head problem. He said it over and over. And the officer who put him there looked him in the eye and said, "Yup." He said it without hesitation, without remorse, without any apparent awareness that what he had just done would end his career, result in criminal charges, and be documented in 3 separate official reports that would tell 3 different stories about the same event. He said it knowing a body camera was recording. That matters. Because what a person does when they believe they will face no consequences tells you everything about who they are. And what Officer Dukes did next tells you even more. When Mr. Gaylord's cousin, Mario Julian, approached and asked Officer Dukes for a business card so he could document the officer's information and pursue accountability, Officer Dukes told him something. He told Mr. Julian that the department does not issue cards.
You throw me down? Yep. You throw me down. You throw me down. Yep. You bust my head down on the cement.
I'm disabled. I got a head problem. He said it over and over. And the officer who put him there looked him in the eye and said, "Yup." He said it without hesitation, without remorse, without any apparent awareness that what he had just done would end his career, result in criminal charges, and be documented in 3 separate official reports that would tell 3 different stories about the same event. He said it knowing a body camera was recording. That matters. Because what a person does when they believe they will face no consequences tells you everything about who they are. And what Officer Dukes did next tells you even more. When Mr. Gaylord's cousin, Mario Julian, approached and asked Officer Dukes for a business card so he could document the officer's information and pursue accountability, Officer Dukes told him something. He told Mr. Julian that the department does not issue cards.
He was in front of the car when I came up. And he was walking like this. And I thought it was a gun at first. I said, drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun. I had him at gunpoint. And he's over here doing something like this.
You slammed my head. You slammed my head.
What he was doing is putting this up behind the tire. So he comes over right here. He got his hands in his pockets. I'm telling him, let me see your hands, let me see your hands, let me see your hands.
Officer Dukes claims that when Mr. Gaillard was walking from behind the white vehicle, he believed that he had a gun and repeatedly told him to drop it. Officer Dukes also alleges that once Mr. Gaillard stepped in front of the vehicle, he had his hands in his pockets and repeatedly ignored requests to show his hands. However, the body cam footage shows that Mr. Gaillard actually had his hands above his head, and that while Officer Dukes repeatedly screamed at Mr. Gaillard to get on the ground,
Mr. Gaylord to drop a gun and show his hands. He claimed this all justified what happened next. But the body camera footage does not show Officer Dukes ordering anyone to drop a gun. It does not capture commands to show hands at a moment when those hands were not already visible. Because Mr. Gaylord's hands were up. They were empty. They were in the air when Officer Dukes gave that order. Which means either Officer Dukes cannot accurately recall an encounter that happened minutes before he described it, or he was not describing it accurately on purpose.
Dukes was reporting what happened. He did not explain the method he used to take Mr. Gaillard down. Corporal Smith's report claimed that when Mr. Gaillard did not get completely on the ground, Officer Dukes pushed him to the ground by placing his right foot on the middle of Mr. Gaillard's back. However, the incident report filed by Sergeant Aquel Polador states that Officer Dukes, quote, jumped up and stomped Mr. Gaillard on the back of his neck with his foot. Although it is unclear from the body camera footage whether Officer Dukes' foot landed on Mr. Gaillard's neck or upper back, it is certain that the version of events Officer Dukes
What? Well, I mean, that's the reasons I did what I did. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm coming from. Because when he was behind the truck, I couldn't see what he was doing. And I didn't know where that went. If it was still in his pockets when he come around that car with his hands in his pockets.
on camera.
All right, that's fine.
Did not match reality. Consider what the reports actually say. Officer Dukes claimed that Mr. Gaillard was walking from behind a vehicle with his hands in his pockets. He claimed he repeatedly She did not describe Officer Dukes placing a foot on Mr. Gaillard's back. She described him jumping up and stomping Mr. Gaillard on the back of his neck. 3 officers, 3 reports. 0 alignment with what Officer Dukes told his commanding officer about what he had done. Ask yourself this. If the use of force was justified, why did the explanation for it keep changing? If Mr. Gaillard truly posed a threat, why did no other officer on scene document that threat? And if Officer Dukes was confident in his actions, why did he lie about something as simple as whether his department issues business cards? This is not a gray area. This is a trail of contradictions laid down by one man, followed by a colleague who refused to let those contradictions stand uncorrected. That colleague is Sergeant Pador, and what she did is worth examining carefully because it is rarer than it should be. In law enforcement culture, there exists a well-documented phenomenon, sometimes called the blue wall, the informal agreement, spoken or unspoken, that officers protect each other from accountability, that when something goes wrong, the version of events that protects a fellow officer is the version that gets written down, that speaking truthfully against a colleague carries professional risk.
Wrong for that. Yeah. Listen.
Can I get a card from you?
I don't have one now. We
Okay,
don't have
what's your
they
badge
don't give us cards.
Okay, what's your badge number?
1059.
Let me see if I can get my phone.
Hold on, we have cards. Okay.
Corporal Brandy Smith, who was also present, filed an incident report that noted Mr. Gaylord's hands were out of his pockets by the time he reached the front of the vehicle. Her report makes no mention of any gun, no mention of commands to drop a weapon, no mention of anything that would justify the level of force that followed. Sergeant Pador's report went further.
Okay. Thank you.
When Mr. Julian asks Officer Dukes for a business card, Officer Dukes claims they are not issued cards by their department. However, Sergeant Poldador immediately corrects Officer Dukes, states that they do have cards, and provides Mr. Julian with the
Officer slammed my forehead down in the cement.
Okay.
You were wrong for that. Yeah. Listen.
Can I get a card from you?
I don't have one now. We
Okay,
don't have
what's your
they
badge
don't
number?
give us cards.
Okay, what's your badge number?
1059.
Let me see if I can get my phone. Hold on.
That officers do not have them, that there was simply nothing to hand over. He said it wrong. Standing within earshot, Sergeant Aquel Pador immediately corrected him. The department does issue cards. Officers do have them. Sergeant Pador provided Mr. Julian with the information he was requesting.
After Mr. Gaillard was treated by EMS, he and Mr. Julian were allowed to leave. 2 days after the incident, Officer Dukes was fired from the Orangeburg Department of Public Safety for violating the department's use of force policies, which, as stated before, are not publicly available. On August 25, 2021, former Officer Dukes was charged with first-degree assault and battery, which could carry a sentence of up to 10 years in prison. As of the date of this episode, Mr. Gaillard...
A lie. Caught. On camera. In real time. By a superior officer. He said it wrong. Now, here is where this story shifts from a use of force incident into something with much larger implications. Officer Dukes did not simply use excessive force. He then attempted to construct a false version of what had happened. He told his commanding officer a version of events that, according to the body camera footage and the written reports of 2 other officers on scene,
during this encounter was Mr. Dukes in any danger, and it is clear that his violent actions were motivated by his ego, not officer or civilian safety. There was absolutely no legitimate excuse for shoving Mr. Gaillard's face into the pavement when it was plainly obvious that he was attempting to surrender. And this is exactly...
Now here is the question this entire story turns on. And it is not about Officer Dukes. His conduct has been judged. He was fired. He was charged. The system, in this case, moved. The question is about the next time, and the time after that. Sergeant Meyer fist-bumped a man who had just slammed a disabled man's head into the pavement. He did it without asking a single question. He did it because one version of events was offered to him, and he chose to accept it. That reflex, the reflex to stand next to a colleague without evaluating the facts, is the condition that makes misconduct survivable inside institutions. It is what allows one bad incident to become a pattern. And it is what makes Sergeant Pador's decision significant enough to examine not just as an individual act of courage, but as a model. She had every incentive to say nothing, to file a report that was technically accurate but strategically incomplete, to let the
repercussions of speaking out against them. This notion was on full display in this very interaction, when Sergeant Meyer fist-bumped Mr. Dukes for an appropriate use of force, without knowing any of the details beyond what Mr. Dukes had told him. I commend Sergeant Poldador for having the courage and conviction to hold Mr.
Now here is the question this entire story turns on. And it is not about Officer Dukes. His conduct has been judged. He was fired. He was charged. The system, in this case, moved. The question is about the next time, and the time after that. Sergeant Meyer fist-bumped a man who had just slammed a disabled man's head into the pavement. He did it without asking a single question. He did it because one version of events was offered to him, and he chose to accept it. That reflex, the reflex to stand next to a colleague without evaluating the facts, is the condition that makes misconduct survivable inside institutions. It is what allows one bad incident to become a pattern. And it is what makes Sergeant Pador's decision significant enough to examine not just as an individual act of courage, but as a model. She had every incentive to say nothing, to file a report that was technically accurate but strategically incomplete.
The testimony that she offered in her incident report likely played a vital role in making certain that he was held accountable for his actions. Officers who witness acts of misconduct are often placed in a position where they must consider whether reporting that misconduct is worth the potential damage to their career that could arise from pursuing accountability for the actions of their colleagues. And it is all too common to see members of law enforcement justify the actions of their peers in any way they can to avoid facing.
Under the Fourth Circuit's 2016 ruling in Armstrong v. Village of Pinehurst, which covers South Carolina, even passive noncompliance only justifies a corresponding level of force, not a stomp to the back of the neck of a disabled man who is visibly surrendering. And then there is the lie about the business card. South Carolina law does not require officers to provide identification to citizens upon request. That is a fact. But intentionally lying to a citizen in an attempt to prevent them from pursuing accountability is something the courts have addressed. In the 1997 South Carolina case of State v. Lori Gray, a court of appeals upheld convictions for both obstruction of justice and official misconduct against an officer who manipulated evidence and witnesses. The court defined obstruction of justice as any act which prevents, obstructs, impedes, or hinders the administration of justice. It defined official misconduct as the failure of a public officer to properly and faithfully discharge a duty imposed by law. An officer telling a citizen they cannot obtain contact information the citizen intends to use to file a formal complaint about that officer's conduct, when that information is readily available and the department does issue it, draw your own conclusion about where that falls.
Leon was given the necessary information to follow up on the incident and for maintaining a calm, collected, and professional attitude throughout the interaction. Although it cannot be proven with any degree of certainty, I suspect that Sergeant Polidor was highly involved in the Orangeburg Department's decision to fire and charge Mr. Dukes, and the testimony that she...
Sergeant Pador did not do that. Her incident report documented what she witnessed. It contradicted the account of the officer who used force. It described the use of force in terms significantly more serious than Officer Dukes was willing to put in writing about his own actions. And according to the publicly available record of what followed, her account played a central role in what came next. Personal cost and social consequence within the department. On the night of July 26, 2021, Sergeant Meyer, another officer on scene, fist-bumped Officer Dukes. He had no information beyond what Dukes had told him. He had not reviewed the footage. He had not interviewed the victim. He had not read a single report. He simply accepted the story, offered congratulations, and moved on. 2 days after the incident, Officer David Lance Dukes was fired.